just ending January out today, so February starts tomorrow, and that means we have 2 VE sessions in the area in February. The one on Gate City Boulevard is on the second Saturday of every month. The next one is February the 13th, so you have a couple weeks to get ready for that one. That starts at 9 in the morning, and if you come to that session, you need to make sure, well, both sessions actually, you need to make sure you bring 2 forms of ID. One of them has to be a photo ID, and if you're upgrading, make sure to bring a printout of your existing license from the FCC website. And David Macchiarolo, he is the lead VE for both of those sessions, and it would be nice for you if you're gonna be at them to let him know and shoot him an email just so he knows. It's not necessary for the Greensboro session on High Point Road, but it helps him to know who's going to be there. His email address is aj4tf. That's his call sign, aj4tf@arrl.net. And like I said, the next one in Greensboro is on Saturday, February the 13th. There's also a VE session at the High Point Red Cross building on Phillips Avenue on the last Saturday of every month. That one starts at 10 in the morning. And so the next session, they just had one yesterday. So that means you have a little while if you want to study and catch that session. The next session in High Point will be on February the 27th. So you can let David also is the lead VE for that session, so you can email him at the same address, aj4tf@arrl.net, to let him know that you're going to be there. And so they just had a session yesterday. David emailed me yesterday of some really exciting news about that, and I can let him talk about it if he's around too, but they had 14 candidates, all of whom passed yesterday. They have 12 new techs, 1 new general, and 1 new extra out of the High Point VE session. So that's awesome. So let's find out if David is around, if he wants to mention anything. If not, if he's not, maybe he'll be around later on. But that's excellent news, man. He said that he thinks that's the biggest session they've had so far. David, are you around? Do you want to mention anything else about the session yesterday? All right, not hearing him. So maybe he'll be around a little later. But that is very cool. They had 5 VEs present yesterday, 12 new techs and 2 upgrades. So that's pretty amazing. That's very cool. And hopefully some of those guys are going to be listening in tonight. Of course, they won't be able to transmit quite yet, but they should be on the air here very shortly. All right. So, excuse me. Sorry about that. Other announcements. The news and information that's on this same repeater at 9 o'clock in a little while, featuring Amateur Radio Newsline. And the next GARA meeting is on February the 22nd. That's only a few weeks away. It seems like it's a long ways away, but it's not really that far. And we're going to have a good time at that meeting, so put it on your calendar to be there at Captain Bill's on February 22nd. All right, and I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but maybe you weren't around what the topic of the night is now. Considering we have so many 12 new hams, I thought that the topic of the evening could be okay, so I've passed my test. Now what? What do I do? We had a similar topic, I don't know, maybe it's been a year now, it's been a while, but so maybe if some of those guys are listening in, they can get an idea about what they need to do now and to start getting actually involved in the hobby. And I know all of you have some excellent suggestions, so I'd like to hear them. Yeah, that'd be great. That's the topic tonight. So let's start out by taking check-ins for mobile or low power stations like we always do. Today is the 31st. Let me put it on my list here. If you're mobile or low power and you want to check in the tech forum, call forum control, unkey to make sure you're not doubling. That means say your call sign and then let off and listen for a second. Make sure you're not running over somebody else. And then give your call sign again and your name. So let's start out by taking mobile or low power stations. If you want to check in, call forum control now.
Forum control. In KD4E and V, Echo November Victor. I'm a little busy right here, but I'll be listening and get back with you if I can. KD4E and V.
And at this time, N4BYU, November 4 Bravo, Yankee United. The name is Roy, Mobile, Pleasant Garden. Hey Scott, sounding good.
All right, good to hear you guys. Thanks for being here tonight. I got both of you, KD4ENV Ron and N4BYU Roy. I'm glad to hear both of you. Ron, if you're still there, I know you're busy, but if you want to add anything, now's the time to do it. Have you got anything to let us know what guys should do, guys and gals, I guess, now that they have their tickets? What do you think?
Sorry, got my hands full right now. I'll try to get back with you. K4NB, back to the net.
All right, no problem, Ron. Thanks for being here tonight, and maybe we'll talk to you in a little bit. All right, that leaves us with Roy. I'm sure Roy is the expert at this. What do you think?
Well, hadn't thought too much, Scott, but I got to think. That's tough on me. One thing, you need to be active. I know I was scared to death when I got my license, and I didn't know anything, and didn't get out. Get on the air. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a bunch of them, I guarantee you that. And we're going to laugh at you. But we're going to have fun because you're one of us. You're not going to ever be perfect. So get on the air, make a few mistakes, let us holler at you, let us laugh at you, and then one day you can laugh. Now, we're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you, really we are. We all been there at one time, and get active. If you're not active, why don't you even get your ticket? We've got field day coming up. We've got N4G. If you just sit at home on your you-know-what, why don't you even do it? Start with field day, N4G. Man, it is fun. You get out and meet people. Some of them you wish you never had, and some of them be your lifetime friends forever and ever and ever. So that's why you got it. Now get out and use it. N4BYU.
Well, thanks for those words of encouragement, I guess. Thanks, Roy. That's really good. That's really good. No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, you did it presumably because you were interested in radio, and some people may have done it for the emergency aspect of it. I think sometimes people get into it because of that. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't know how to do it anyway and be good at it. Absolutely. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. No doubt about it. All right, that's great. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate it as always. All right, let's take the rest of the check-ins and get everybody else in here and see what's going on and what they think about this. So we went forwards last week. Let's go backwards this week. Let's take check-ins by the first letter of the suffix to your call sign. So those of you who are new, that means once you get your call sign, like my call sign is KV4UP. So the suffix is the part after the 4. The 4 is the number, the suffix is the part after number. So my call sign, when we take check-ins, if I was checking in tonight, I would base it on the fact that right after the 4 is a U in my call sign, KV4UP. So that means I would have to wait till the person running the forum or the net calls for check-ins in the part of the alphabet where U falls. So since I'm going backwards tonight, I like to alternate a little bit. I said Papa through Zulu. We're going to take check-ins Papa through Zulu. U falls in there. So this would be my turn to check in if I was checking in tonight. So there you go. That's what we're doing. So if the suffix to your call sign is anywhere from Papa through Zulu, call forum control now.
Hey, Scott, let me ask you a question before they check in. We're always talking about nets. What's a forum? What's the difference between a net and a forum? Why should they not be calling net control since they're new? N4BYU.
You know what? I think that I don't honestly know the answer to that, Roy, and you probably can fill me in more than I can. My impression is that the forum is just a more relaxed net. If you're new, we actually follow net rules with this forum. I mean, we're taking check-ins and we go through the list of people who can go sequentially talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. It's essentially, I think we're just trying to keep a little bit more relaxed around here. Do you have something more than that I'm missing?
No, not really. It's a net, and it's as far as two or three of it's a little bit of a joke. You don't call net control, you call forum control. It's the same thing, six of one, half dozen the other, but it might confuse some of the new guys. But it just started out as a forum, and it started out originally. A couple of guys did some classes, and you do not learn anything at class except how to pass. And this was set up to teach what you did not know. And as you're doing now, you pick a topic and expound on it, or have questions asked, and try to teach what they should know. And I don't know the definition of a forum, but it's a six of one, half dozen the other. And I have been hollered at, this ain't no net, but it's six of one, half dozen the other. And but for the ones that don't know, it's still the same. And for BYU.
Yes, I concur. It really is a net, but we're just trying to make it more user-friendly around here, I guess. Hey, that's fine. No, but thanks for pointing that out, so that so people who might not have been around for a while, or no, they can kind of, well, tell the difference or not. There you go. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and take the check-ins. I said Papa through Zulu, didn't I? If the suffix to your call sign starts with Papa through Zulu, call forum control now.
Forum control. Please check in Alpha Juliet 4 Tango Foxtrot to the forum.
KB. Please check.
Forum control. Please check in Kilo Bravo 1 Papa, Tom, and Oak Ridge.
All right, good to hear you, fellows. I got you. Alpha Juliet 4 Tango Foxtrot, David. Thanks for being here, and thanks for doing such a great job with that huge class yesterday, or the huge VE session. That was awesome. I got your email, and we were just talking about that, and that's why the topic is tonight what it is. Now that I have my ticket, now what? That's the topic. So, thanks for being here. And Cameron, same to you. Neighbors down there, AJ4TW. Good to hear you guys. And Tom and Oak Ridge, KB1P. Thanks for joining us. So let's see. I think I'll do Hotel through Oscar. Hotel through Oscar. If you want to check into the tech forum, call forum control now.
Forum control. Please check in Kilo Mike 4 Hotel X-Ray Victor, Paul in Northeast Guilford County. Good evening, Scott.
Scott, K4HC. KB4UP. Please check in W4 JCK Chris in Greensboro. Hello, Scott.
All right, good to hear you guys. Nice to hear you, Paul. You're sounding great tonight, KM4HXV. Thanks for being here. And then we got the two Chris's. I always appreciate the fact that you guys are in the same place in the in Alphabet, or the same area at Alphabet, and you guys almost always check in next to each other. K4HC, good to hear you. Hopefully you're making some progress on the de-expedition going on. I think I saw you were, so that's good. You'll have to let us know about that. And Chris, W4JCK, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks for being here tonight. All right, let's do the last bit of the alphabet. That would be Alpha through Golf. Alpha through Golf. If you want to check in the tech forum, call forum control now.
KV4UP. Please check in Kilo Victor 4 Papa India, Fred in Greensboro, and hopefully I'll be here when you get back to my call. If not, I apologize. Got a few things going on, but hope to jump in.
No worries at all, Fred. Thanks for being here. KV4PI, my friend and prefix sharer. I'm glad you're here tonight, and I hope you're here too. You always have a lot of great stuff to say. Thanks for joining us. All right, let's do the entire alphabet. Anybody, anywhere, if you want to join the tech forum, call. Well, that would be Alpha through Zulu. Anybody in the alphabet, call forum control now.
Net control. Whiskey 8, Charlie, Charlie, Whiskey.
This is KV4UP with the Tech Forum. Great, John, I got you. W8CCW, thanks for being here tonight. And we'll come back at the end and check and see if anybody else is around. But let me just remind everybody what the topic is, just in case you came in late. The topic is based on the fact that David sent me an email, AJ4TF sent me an email yesterday after the VE session, the High Point, about how many people passed the test, which were 14, which is awesome. 12 new techs, a new general, and a new extra. And I was hoping that some of them may be listening in tonight. Maybe they have some radios and they're trying to figure them out. They can't quite transmit yet, but they may be listening. And that's not to mention that Cameron has been recording these tech forums, and we've been posting them on our website on w4gso.org, and you can go back and listen to them later. So even if they can't listen in on the repeater tonight, maybe they will find their way to the recording of them and hear all the great advice that you guys are going to give. So that's what the hope is. And you know, I don't know if you heard what Roy had to say earlier. I thought it was good. You know, just go out and get involved, and we have some neat events coming up here pretty soon. One of the things that I would like to mention, and hopefully I'm not stealing anybody's thunder, is to get involved with a club or an organization, or at least an Elmer. In ham lingo, Elmer is like a mentor, somebody who can show you the ropes and teach you some stuff. Of course, you're on the W4GSO repeater, which is operated by the Greensboro Amateur Radio Association, and it's an excellent club. We invite you to come and get and join with us. Go to w4gso.org to take a look at what we're all about. You can join or not, or just come to the you know, we would love you to join. Don't get me wrong, that would be the ultimate goal, but if you're just starting out and you just want to see what we're all about, go to the website and take a look around, and then plan on coming to the meeting on February the 22nd so that you can meet people and start to really get involved, and then plan on coming to N4G in March too. But I'll probably let David talk about that. He is the first on the list. David, AJ4TF, thanks for sending that email. That's very exciting, and I know we're all kind of stoked about that. Thanks for doing that. And what are your sage words of wisdom for all these new hams?
Good evening, Scott. Everybody else, AJ4TF here. I would have said it a little bit differently than Roy, but he's kind of got the point. What do you do with that license now that you've got it? One thing that I always do after my exam sessions is I send the newly licensed and sometimes the newly upgraded a set of emails, an email that I wrote a long time ago with some assistance from KB1P, which basically says, hey, here's your next steps. Go to the ARRL, go here. We also have a new ham guide that KB1P and a few others wrote, which has a lot of good info, mostly on 2-meter 440, because that's where most of the techs end up, especially the ones that bought the cheap radios. So, yeah, I would just say don't be afraid to get on the air. Of course, those of you who got past the test yesterday cannot get on the air until you get your call sign, which I should have tomorrow if you're listening. But yeah, I mean, Roy's got the right idea. Don't just let it, sit and gather dust. Get out there. We've got lots of stuff going on. We've got our special event station N4G, which is coming up in March 12th and 13th, and that's a good opportunity for people who just are newly licensed to get on the air on the HF bands and learn what HF is all about, and might prompt you to get your upgrade. So anyway, that's about it. What was the topic again, Scott? Or maybe I covered it.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. The topic is, now that I have my license, now what do I do, essentially? And I think you kind of hit on that a little bit. Did you want to add anything else?
Oh, okay, that was the topic. All right. No, I guess not. Certainly, as somebody mentioned, Roy or you, there's a lot of knowledgeable folks around here that are in this club and other clubs that can help you answer questions. Even Roy will answer a question, although you got to listen carefully to the answer. Anyway, I think that's about it, and I will turn it back to you with this. Oh, I messed up the last letter. There we go.
That is great, David. It sounds like you are making some fantastic progress. I know you gave it a shot last week, or you were going to give it a shot last week, and it's just in 1 week, man. I'm jealous. I need to do that. You're making me jealous. I need to get my butt in gear, don't I? Thanks for all of that, and thanks for your work yesterday in that. It's very exciting to hear, and hopefully we see some of these guys at the club meeting. Yeah, and I know a bunch of you guys, if you're new and you're listening in, it's like, well, I just passed my tech license, and HF, I kind of have a general idea about what that is. There's not an awful lot about HF stuff on the tech exam, a little bit here and there, but what is that? That is, that's one of the things I was confused about when I was first on. Okay, well, you can talk to people in the United States. You can choose different bands that give you essentially different ranges for all intents and purposes in a certain sense of the word. But you can talk to people internationally and rack those up and count them. And there are all sorts of things you can do because it's non-line of sight, and it works with the ionosphere and solar weather and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about HF, is talking to people throughout the country and around the world on these bands. That is a little bit more extensive than what you can do with the VHF or UHF. Now, technicians can get on 10 meters in a certain range of the 10-meter band, and I would encourage you to do that. If you got your tech license, take a look at that, because that could be fun too. But that's what we're talking about. That really kind of gets you into the meat of what's going on around here. All right, let's swing down to David's neighbor in High Point, Cameron, AJ4TW. What do you think, Cameron? What's going on?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to hear y'all tonight, and really happy to hear about all the new techs, and I think general upgrade and extra upgrade, so that's really cool. I think it's been pretty well hashed out already. Getting involved is pretty important. Yeah, don't be afraid to key up the radio. If you did get one of those sub $50 Chinese HTs, you might, and you start to think you like it, you might think about saving up for a little bit nicer radio. I find the Chinese radios pretty hard to use, so actually a little bit nicer radio makes it a little bit easier. Human interface is a lot easier. So anyway, there's those 2 cents. I don't know. yeah, jump in there, check into nets, come out to the meetings, come out to the special event N4G at Guilford Courthouse National Military Park and get on the air, or do some logging, sit next to somebody who's on the air and listen and help them log all their contacts. That's a great way to learn about HF. And the last thing I would say is don't stop with your tech license. Get the upgrade. The fun really happens, for me, in a lot of hands on HF. And the technician license is a great thing to get you into the hobby and communicate locally. And you get a little bit of HF privileges, especially if you're on CW, but getting the general gives you a lot more freedom, and you get a lot more opportunity for some long-distance contacts. So don't stop with the tech license. Keep going. I don't know, that's about it, I guess. Scott, thanks for doing it. I was a little slow with the uptake today. I was kind of busy, and then I was like, oh, the net's going on. So I missed part of the preamble on the recording, but that'll be okay. It'll be fine. Yeah. Back to you, Scott. Thanks a lot, and 73 to everyone. AJ4TW.
This is KB4EP with the Tech Forum. No problem, Cameron. The main part of the word preamble is amble, and I'm sure I do enough ambling that it's not really that big of a deal if it's on there. And I think that you brought up some good points that maybe someone later on can expound on. You're talking about the Chinese HTs, and honestly, I know I've mentioned this on here before, but the Baofeng HT was really what kind of drew me into the hobby, because I thought this hobby would just be expensive, and I didn't know that much about it, and I thought, oh, surely it's going to be a lot of money. And then I started looking into those because I saw one advertised on a website one day, and I was like, oh man, that's cheap. I think I could probably do this, and that's kind of what got me into it. But as we go on, and as other people, as your turn is up, maybe think about, of course we want everybody to get involved, but what does it take to actually get involved? Is an HT okay? Would you recommend somebody get a mobile radio? If so, is there any reason to get something more than just a VHF rig, for example, a 2-meter rig? These are questions I think new people are going to want to know. They may have an HT and may already be thinking about getting something else or moving in a different direction. Where should they go? Should they just forego even worrying about something mobile and just start studying for HF so that they can maybe get a cheap Kenwood or something in their shack right away? Or what would you suggest with that? Just be thinking about those kinds of things, because really what I want to do tonight is just kind of plant the seeds in the new guys' heads so that they know what questions to ask and they know how to get involved. And sometimes it's a little daunting or a little intimidating. When I first came to the GARA meeting, everybody's very, very nice, but you're still walking into an environment where you don't know anybody. Everybody is new. You don't know if they're going to be nice. You've maybe heard a few of them on the air, but you don't know if those guys that you've heard on the air are going to be there or not, and you don't know if they're going to recognize you or your call sign if you walk in, and it can be a little intimidating, at least for somebody like me who's a little bit, I wouldn't call myself introverted, but I'm not a very social person. So anyway, there you go. I'm just ambling on. Let's go to Oak Ridge and see what Tom has to say about it. Tom, how you doing this evening? KB1P, go ahead.
This is KB1P, Tom in Oak Ridge. I've been thinking about this, and I think the first thing a new tech has to do is figure out where the repeaters are in his area and learn how to program his radio, and then listen. The biggest thing they can do is listen, find out what's happening in that area, what type of procedures are used in informal nets or during the traffic rushes, how they rotate through. And then the biggest thing is, one, don't be afraid to push the talk button and throw your call sign out there. And I disagree with Roy. I don't believe anybody in this area will laugh at you. I think they'll politely correct you. This is one of the most polite areas I've been in. I got my license up in New England, and the people up there were very vicious if you made a mistake, and it's sort of like had people hesitant to get on. But once you get over it, you get over it. Now, we're also very fortunate in this area that you can hit the repeater in Greensboro and some of the repeaters around this area with just a handheld radio in your car. So maybe they want to try that, and then if with only the 5 watt output, you're probably not going to get as good reception or transmitting as you would with a 50 watt radio. But then you can think about what you want. And some of the newer HF radios do cover 2 meters and 70 centimeters. So you can also look at that. I think that's all I have for now. If I think of anything else, I'll give it a call you back. This is KB1P. Thank you for running the net, Scott.
All right, Tom, that's great. Yeah, thank you. And I agree with you. You know, I don't have a lot of experience in different areas like you do, but I've gone traveling around the country, mainly up north to Michigan, where my family is, and I listen to some repeaters up there, and I don't know that anybody's really rude, but I can say that I feel like when I come back home, it's just a much friendlier atmosphere. Nobody's really mean up there or really get on your case if you did something wrong, but here I just feel like there's a whole lot of people who just want to help you out and show you the ropes and get you going in the right direction. You know, that's what helped me out. And honestly, this forum, way back a couple of years ago when I first started joining it, it was one of those things where I would tune in Sunday night and I just waited for the Sunday evening to come, because I knew that I was going to hear a whole bunch of great information from a bunch of good guys. I didn't even necessarily, it's like, maybe some people listening tonight who aren't actually transmitting because they don't have their licenses yet, but I didn't even necessarily need to check in. I just knew I was going to get a lot of great information, and it's just how the guys in this club in this area are. So I really appreciate that. All right, let's go over to the other side of the county to Paul, KM4HXV. How you doing tonight, Paul? What have you got to add?
Good evening, Scott, and everybody on the net. Boy, everybody's covered a lot of stuff I was going to say, but me being next month will be my full year come circle that I became a ham. Got my tech in March of last year. All I can tell them is, like you said, I started out with a little Bofang. I bought off of eBay before I even got my tech license and listened some, and then got my tech license, and I bought a TYT mobile radio, but I bought a power supply to run it in the house, and that's how I started out, kind of as a base station here at home, and then kind of grew my stuff. But like you said, come to the meeting. That's what I did. Roy invited me to the GARA meeting, enjoyed it, meeting everybody, and got involved. Number 2, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure about equipment to buy or whatever, ask some guys, ask people. That's what I did. And one of the things that everybody iterated to me and still does is, you can have the most expensive rig in the world, but if you don't have a good antenna, you can forget it. You're not going to get out. Let me drop. But I'm really enjoying it, and as they said too, start studying a little bit for your general. I was so excited when I got my general back in November of last year, because got involved in the 2 meter and talking to everybody, and then I bought me an HF radio, a nice Yaesu TF950, and got it hooked up. And I'd sit here and listen to guys talk all over the place, but I couldn't reply back because I didn't have my general license. So I finally got myself moving and studied for it, and I really enjoy HF2. Like Cameron said, it's really fun to make the contacts, and you got to take things with a grain of salt. I'll give you one scenario. I made contact, or was trying to make contact with some folks up in New Jersey, and they lit me up for trying to jump in there on their calls or their radio talk or whatever, and told me that I should sit back and listen and not be so quick to jump. So yeah, you need to stop and listen too. Listen a little bit before you try to step in there and wait for a break. But it's a great hobby, a lot of fun. Be careful. You can sink a lot of money into it. So if you're married, make sure you talk to the better half first, so you don't get yourself in trouble. Other than that, that's about all I got to say, Scott. Back to you, KM4HXV.
KV4EP with a tech forum. Paul, that is probably the best advice anybody's given on this forum so far. Talk to your significant other first, if you have one, about the money that you're going to spend, and make sure that's okay. I was listening on HF the other morning. I have an HF radio in my truck now, and every morning to and from, and in the evening on the way home from work, I turn it on, and I either listen to 40 meters or 80 meters, mainly because those are the two most active bands right now. And I heard a guy recounting a story about a ham friend of his who was really, really into it, and he was so into it, he spent tens of thousands of dollars on the hobby. And his wife eventually gave him an ultimatum, and so the guy is not nearly as involved now. I think he's still involved, but he kind of had to, you know what, maybe if he had handled that differently at the outset, things might be different. But absolutely, we want everybody to be happy. I'm very thankful that my wife is very supportive of me in this, because she doesn't have to be, but she is, and I think we all are thankful for that. But thanks for that, Paul. I appreciate it a lot. That's some great advice. All right, speaking of great advice, next are the two Chris's. Let's go to K4HC Chris first. How you doing tonight, Chris? What's going on?
I'm reminded of the QSO, or the one side of the QSO that was reportedly heard. My wife said if I didn't give up ham radio, she was going to leave me. Over.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm going to miss her. Yeah. Anyway, this is Chris, K4HC, and this is my 40th year of this hobby. At the end of this year, I will hit my 40th anniversary of being involved in amateur radio. It's been a lot of fun, and it still is fun. And there are a lot of things to do within the hobby. A lot of avenues that you can explore. And you will probably everybody wants to learn everything all at once. You can't do that, first of all. You can't do that and do everything well. So pick an aspect of it. Do some things out for the future as well. You know, perhaps you want to get on HF. I would encourage you to strongly consider upgrading. The general license is on the same general level as the technician license. Some new information to learn centered around HF, but the level of learning is about the same. So by all means, at least get your general license, especially while you're in the mode of studying and learning. Let me reset. You're probably going to be doing this for a long time. Asking other people's opinions as to what radio to get, for example, is a great idea. But remember, everybody has their own opinion. You're the one that has to make the final choice. However, you should seek out advice of those that have tried some of these radios. So, you know, it's going to be getting a lot of information and then trying to filter it down and fill your needs for the time. To get on HF, it does not take a lot. A basic HF radio, typically 100 watts, a wire antenna in your trees if you are fortunate enough to have trees in your yard, if you live in a house. Very unobtrusive and can be very effective. You can work a lot of stuff. You're limited only by your own skill set, which will develop over time, and the laws of propagation, which you can't control, but you can use to your advantage. It can be a rather significant investment, and you know, you can dump thousands and thousands of dollars of money into the hobby, but I could get you an HF radio, new HF radio, and a wire antenna, and get you on HF for under $1,000. Which sounds like a lot of money, but in today's day and age, it's not nearly so much as it used to be. That being said, you know, try and find an avenue that you want to explore, and don't be afraid to shift your focus over time. I've done that many times. I've dabbled my fingers in many different aspects of ham radio, satellite operation, amateur television, VHF and UHF weak signal long distance propagation. Right now I'm mostly doing HF DX chasing and having a lot of fun with that. By the way, yes, South Georgia is in my log a couple of times. So I hope you have fun with it and be ready for sort of a long haul. It's not instantaneous, but there's a lot of satisfaction that can be gotten out of all this. I hope that wasn't too rambly. Back to you, Scott, K4HC.
This is KV4UP with the Tech Forum. Nope, not at all, Chris. That was excellent, and that brought up a bunch of great points. One of them that I just kind of wanted to expand on that you brought up is learn about the different areas and aspects. You know, I think when I got into it, I saw the VHF radio, and I was like, okay, I kind of knew I didn't know, a second cousin once removed. I don't even know how you calculate that stuff, but I had a distant relative at one point who lived in Toledo who was a ham, and I had heard, it was when I was a child, I had heard some things that he had done, really neat things, run contests, stuff like that, and I just remember being, oh, that's kind of neat, but I didn't really know what it took to get into it. And then when I got into it, I got the HT and got into VHF, and it's kind of like, okay, well, now what do I need to know? What else is there out there? And you get some of it when you're studying for the tests, but scratch the surface. So I was just going to mention, if you go to w4gso.org, and the community menu at the top is how you get to the forum. And in the forum, any of the forums that you choose, any of the areas that you choose, there's a sticky at the top that is titled Ham Radio Website Links. And it's something that I put together, and there are a couple other things in there from other people too. They're just all sorts of websites about ham radio and different things you can get into. If you're not sure if you want to get into HF, it may be worth looking into getting RTL or an RTL SDR dongle. They're like $10 or $15 on Amazon. It's basically a software-defined radio. You plug into your computer, and with the right software, you can pick up some HF. Some of the higher HF bands. But in any case, you get to start seeing what's going on out there, and without really spending a bunch of money on a 100-watt transceiver, right? And so it may be something to think about. There are links to that on there. There are links to different podcasts you can listen to. There are a number of people who are doing some really good podcasts now, like 100 Watts and a Wire and these types of things. Give all sorts of great information. There are all sorts of organizations out there. ARRL, of course, a lot of you probably saw their website when you were studying. But there's tons of information. They have all the great books that they put out. There are all sorts of other DX associations and ARES and all this other stuff. AMSAT. We're going to hear from the president of AMSAT at the club meeting in April. I'm really looking forward to that. So if you're interested in satellite work, it's going to be a great meeting to be at. There are magazines, all sorts of things. Go on there and take a look at some of these websites. They'll open your eyes and see exactly what you're getting into and how much there is to get involved in. I think it's great. Thanks for that, Chris. That's fantastic. And congratulations on the 40-year.
Repeater time out. Repeater time out.
Sorry, I'm long. I just can't shut up, can I? Thanks for notifying me of my timeout. I should have figured out why this radio didn't tell me. In any case, let's keep on going so I don't blow the timeout timer again. Next, Chris, JCK, excuse me. How you doing tonight, Chris? What have you got to add?
KV4UP, W4JCK. Wow, Scott, you talked the repeater down. If you could see it, I've got my little index finger out giving you the shame on you thing. But no, it's a good topic. When you first get your license, of course, it's different now, and it's actually pretty good now if you just got your license, versus back like when Roy and Chris and I got ours. there wasn't any internet, and one of the things you brought up, I believe you mentioned it, is the expense. You know, if you pick up, get a catalog, or if you subscribe to QST and you're looking through at the ads, and you're looking at some of the equipment, especially HF rigs, it can be a little daunting. But somebody mentioned the little Chinese HTs. You know, there are lots of people that have some philosophical problems with them, and then there are people who, in a very uneducated manner, have a lot of technical problems with them. It's amazing how many Google PhDs we have now, especially when it comes to spectral analysis. But I think that's great that you can actually get a working radio, at least a working receiver for 2 meters and 440 for $50, $60, and actually have something you can use. And I wouldn't hesitate to recommend, get one of those, and of course, I think whatever it is, that stuff Chirp that's out there, that's free. And a lot of these younger people getting into radio, man, if they can do something with their computer related to it, as far as programming the radio, that's a great place to start, because that's probably something they understand, and they pick it up a lot faster than us old guys. And of course, atmosphere on repeaters is a whole lot different than it was back in the 70s. I think I alluded to it one other time. The repeaters were like holy shrines, so the sort of informal atmosphere that surrounds most repeaters now did not exist then. So I think it's really good, simply if you've got one of the $50 radios and you're not sure about something, it's great. Just key up the repeater and go, I got a question, could anybody help me? I'd have loved to have that resource back, as Chris says, almost 40 years ago. So, it's a good time. It's a good atmosphere. Some people alluded to continuing to study. If you have set aside some time to study for the tech license and you're in that mode, it's a pretty good idea to stay in that mode if you can, and go ahead and do your upgrade. It's exciting to get your license, and you want to get on the air, and that's great. But if you got yourself into a regimen for study, it's a pretty good idea to stay in it. You can continue to be active or get active with it or whatever, but the older you get, the harder it gets to set aside time and do that sort of thing. So if you're in that mode, stay in it. But back when I got my license, like I said, equipment was atmospheric in cost. I remember I finally got enough money, and I got a little Regency HR2B 2-meter rig, and you had to buy a $10 set of crystals for every repeater you wanted to get on. So I don't know, that'd be something like a $600 radio today, adjusted for inflation. And I look at these little Chinese radios you can get for $50, where they would have cost like, I don't know, $4 back then, and that would have been great in terms of being able to get a working radio for $4. So times are really good. It's great, and the internet resource as far as trying to find out things is a really great thing. But the issue with the spouse, that can be real. But if you did what I did, and maybe some of the other guys did, when I decided to get back on after I got married, I sat down and talked to my wife about it, told her all the things it would do. That time she was traveling quite a bit, and I said, we could even put a radio in your car, and you could talk back to me where you're out traveling and stuff like that up to a certain point. And she said, oh, well, I might be interested in that. So as I started to study for my upgrade from tech to advanced, got her into a routine studying for her novice license and her general. And so if you can get your wife licensed, life's a whole lot better. So other than that, that's about it. Had a lot of stuff going on here. ham-wise over the last week or 10 days. I think I finally mapped out my method for programming my 880 frequencies and get that thing up and running. My little ID51 came in on Friday, so that'll be the next phase. So then I'm planning to put up a little dual band Yagi for this radio, vertical for the repeaters. So I just hope it doesn't snow again, because I got to get outside, which is not one of my favorite things to do, and start clearing some area there to get some antennas up. So with that, Scott, I'll turn it back to you, KV4UP, W4JCK.
All right, Chris, thank you very much, and congratulations on the D-Star stuff. I know you're starting to get into that. Sounds like you're really getting into it. That's excellent. I think you're going to have a fun time with that. I know that I do the little bit that I'm in it. So good on you. And yeah, I'm sure Roy's out there laughing at me for timing out the repeater. So there you go, guys. Happens to the, well, I was going to say happens to the best of us, but I'm not putting myself in that category yet. Happens to all of us. How about that? So thanks for shaming me there, Chris, and waggling your finger. Appreciate that. I need that every once in a while. Keep me down on the earth, you know. No, that's great. And it's all great information. Yeah, I've breached the subject of my wife getting her license. She just, I don't know, she's not there yet. Maybe in a while I can convince her. We'll see. Maybe I have to buy her some sort of a ring or something just to get her. You never know. You might have to resort to bribery. All right. Well, before I time out the repeater again, let's move on to my friend Fred, KV4PI. What do you think, Fred? What's going on? Well, Fred may be dealing with the youngins. We'll check in on Fred in a little bit, because I know that they're probably getting ready for bed or in bed now. So let's move on to John, W8CCW. How you doing, John? What's going on with you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. This is W8CCW, to keep it legal. Sitting here thinking, my license was first due in about 1960. I think that's about 55 years ago, somewhere around there. And I don't remember much about being new then, except I was bewildered. And that really hasn't changed. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to make my new D-Star radio work. And I can assure you I'm every bit as bewildered as new tech is about what on earth is going on. I just spent about 20 minutes in the books trying to figure out how to set the tuning step. Somewhere I got boogered up along the way, but now I've figured it out. But I think the next time I need it, I'll have to figure it out again. It seems like just as soon as you learn one thing, your interests change a little bit, and you want to run off in another direction and learn something else, or at least that's the way it works for me. The D-Star is a bit expensive for this hobby, I think. But there's a lot of guys on it locally, and I wanted to get a taste of it, so that's why I am messing with that. But as you can figure out right away, the one thing we all like to do is talk, and that hasn't changed. And for you new guys, jump in anytime. And when you get tired of what's going on, you can always say, well, golly, the phone was ringing or something, and when I came back, you guys were gone. You don't have to put up with anything. You can always lie a little bit, just step away from whatever's going on. So, that's about it. Oh, the name here is John. And Back to you, Scott. I've never timed one out.
This is KD4EP with a Tech 4. I'm not going to live this down, am I? I think I do it about every week, too. Jeez Louise. I'm long-winded, what can I say? But thanks for being here, and thanks for all the great information. You know, one of the things that you said at the end kind of reminded me of something. You know, when we talk about in ham radio, there's a term. The term is lids. Those are people who are not very considerate or kind of rude or do things improper way intentionally on HF and lid. Yeah, and you know, the best piece of advice when you come across someone like that is turn the big knob, the big dial. You know, you have this big knob in the front of your radio. Most radios have them. Even HTs, they might not have them, but they probably have an up or down button so you can scroll through the presets you have in there. You know, if somebody's on there, you don't want to hear them anymore, just go on to the next one. There's a piece of advice for the new guys. You're not stuck in a particular frequency. We're not in channels. You know, if you want to talk to somebody else and you want to talk simplex, get them on the repeater and say, hey, let's go over the simplex frequency. That'll be fun. So there you go. That's a way to handle it. And, you know, I don't think you run into that too much around here, but it's definitely an option. So let's see here. Now that we're at the end of the list, let's see if anybody else wants to check in. If you want to check into the Tech Forum, let us know what you think about some good advice for the new guys who might have just gotten their ticket this weekend. Call Forum Control now. Anybody Alpha through Zulu, call Forum Control check-in.
Hey, J4TF.
Forum Control, please check in and out. Kilo India 4, Alpha Victor Juliet, Wayne.
Control, K4AME.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. I got David on recheck. We'll come back to David here in just a second. Got KF4AVJ Wayne on in and out, and I got K4AME. We'll be to you in just a second. Let's go back to David first. Hey, J4TF, what are you thinking, David?
Well, Scott, the folks that have, hang on for a second, I got to stop this transmission. The folks that have been checked in here have given a lot of good advice. So I hope the newer folks are listening. So just for the folks who haven't decided to upgrade to the Gentle or their Extra, I'm working HF right now, working on 40 meters, and I just worked, let's see, a station 6,000 or 7,000 kilometers away, 8,000 kilometers away, and 9,000 kilometers away on 40. So, with very modest equipment, and anybody who knows what kind of antenna I have knows it's modest. You can do a lot. Anyway, great forum tonight, Scott. I'll turn it back to you and get the other check-ins, AJ4TF.
That's great. Thanks, David. And yeah, that's very fun. I appreciate you mentioning that to us. And yeah, this is. I hope a lot of people listen to this. Maybe listen to it online later on because a lot of great information coming out of this. All right, Wayne was in and out, so let's go on to K4AME. You're up. How you doing tonight, and what advice have you got?
I would say, this is K4AME, if you're bored with us locals and the fellows you see every day and hear every day, with the right ticket, you can do all kinds of things around the world, as Dave just said. My most notable contacts was Barry Goldwater and King Hussein of Jordan. And of course, you talk to a lot of folks and they give you a first name. You don't know what kind of position they hold in their society, but those two friend of mine worked King Hussein too, and he thought the guy was joshing him, and he said, "Well, King, I'm the Count of Monte Carlo, and my name is Bob." and the king said, "I'm pleased to meet you, Count, and I'll send you a QSL card." And Bob got a QSL card from King Hussein. And he said, "I made a fool of myself, but it's amazing." And where and what the subject might be that you're talking about, but you're not limited to all us boring locals. K4AME.
That's great, Sam. Thanks for sharing that with us. I think that's really funny. And, just goes to show you that you don't know who you're going to run into out there on the airwaves. It could be somebody who's famous. It could be somebody who just is out there having a good time and rag chewing. And if you, like I say, if you want to listen and see what's out there, go buy one of those little RTL SDR dongles or the little software-defined radio dongles and get out there. You might have to get like a down converter if you really want to get in the lower bands, but it's a great way to hear what's going on and get an idea before you spend any money on it. I know I've mentioned this on this forum before, but my wife, for my birthday last year, got an amateur radio world map and started putting pins in all the places. Not necessarily that I've confirmed. I think I have 106 or 107 countries confirmed, but all the places that I've contacted, which I don't know, it's right around 140, which isn't very many compared to some of these dudes. But you look at a map and you see all these red pins in there of all these places that you've talked to and made contact with, whether or not they're confirmed or not. I know I talked to the guys. I got their call signs, and I know what the propagation was and all that. And it's neat. It's fun to look at it and say, man, I talk to people. I tell them about ham radio, and I say, well, this is what I do. And sometimes you get picked on a little bit about, well, that's kind of a nerdy thing. And say, well, let me show you my map. Oh, wow, that's impressive, So there you go. Just listen and see what's out there. But those are great stories, Sam. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's see if anybody else wants to check in before I time the repeater out again. Roy and Chris, if you want to join into the tech forum tonight, this is going to be a last call because we have the news and information net coming up in a little bit. If you want to join in, call forum control now.
AJ4TF one more time.
All right, David. Good to hear you, man. Maybe you're making even more contacts. What do you got going on? I think you're going to close this out tonight. Go for it.
One thing I forgot to mention yesterday, want to shout out to Tom, KB1P, Thomas, KB4AK, and Ed, K4EBF. Without those guys, we would not have been able to handle the huge crowd we had yesterday. So my hat's off to you guys. Thank you very much for your help. And lastly, you were talking about you're not sure who you're talking to. I'd like to know if anyone, maybe Roy or somebody, has ever made a contact with WB6ACU, Whiskey Bravo 6 Alpha Charlie Uniform. And that's tonight's quiz is, does anybody know who that is?
Be local and in full BYU.
Not hardly.
Joe Walsh is not local, no.
I kind of figured that's who it was, but I forgot.
Chris is right. That's Joe Walsh of the Eagles fame, who's been a ham as long as he's been a musician.
Thanks, David, and everybody else for pointing that out. That's very cool. And one of the things I think is very interesting. My vocation is information security. It's what I do for my day job, and there tend to be a decent amount of security guys who kind of get into ham radio for one reason or another. Some of the guys I follow on Twitter are hams, and I actually was just at a meeting the other night and talking to some local security guys. and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm a ham," and it's like they might have got their ticket a while ago. For whatever reason, they didn't keep it up, and I was like, "Man, you really should come out to our meeting and get into this a little bit more, you know." But sometimes you're talking to people. It's like Joe Walsh. You wouldn't for in 1,000 years think of that, but he's really into it, and there are plenty of people like that out there. So that's part of what makes it fun, is you don't know who you're going to run into, and you don't know who you might just have a chat with on the radio. But don't let it be a short time conversation or just a signal report. Sometimes rag chewing, whether it's on the repeater or whether it's on HF, you can meet some new friends, like Roy said, and make some lifelong friends. Listen to the nets that are run out there and see what's going on. All right, thanks, guys. That was awesome, and I'm looking forward to listening back to some of this and getting it in my brain a little bit more. But for now, we're going to close her down and get ready for amateur or for the news and information net here in just over 20 minutes. So stick around for that. So for now, I'll say 73. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again, same time, same place next week. And say 73. This is KV4UP. I'm going to return the repeater to normal operation. Have a great week. Thanks.